Good morning and hello from Browns Bay. It's Saturday and it's the 1st of August. Here's a thought for you today. I wonder if you would call yourself a Christian. I remember this debate years ago when I was about 15 at school, in the classroom. I guess I started being a witness quite early. I tried to explain what it meant to be a Christian. But of course we're Christians, said the teacher. We're not Jewish, Hindu or Muslim. We must be Christian. There is a big difference between being Christian in our views of life and being a Christian. The first followers of Jesus were only called Christians in the city of Antioch in around 44 AD. Before that, they were Jewish people who followed Jesus. At one point, they were called the people of the way. Antioch was a Gentile church made up of different cultures. In Acts 13, we read, in the church at Antioch, there were prophets and teachers: Barnabas, Simeon called Niger, Lucius of Cyrene, Manaen, who had been brought up with Herod the Tetrarch, and Saul. God had called into the fellowship and leadership positions of this church representatives of several nations. The commentator Lloyd Ogilvie writes of this church, "The Lord knew what he was doing. Note the magnificent mixture. Barnabas, who had the rich backgrounds of the infant church in Jerusalem from Pentecost or shortly after. Simeon, called Niger, a Latin name showing two strong cultures in one person. Lucius of Cyrene, also a Latin name, clearly identified as coming from North Africa. Manaen, who had been raised in the court of Herod the Tetrarch, that is, the court of Herod Antipas, the father of Agrippa, and Saul, a converted Pharisee. It was a world fellowship to start a world movement. Even Mark, brought from Jerusalem, would add his own contribution later. Two Africans so early in the story. When you have Gentiles from so many countries and parts of society together in a worshipping community, what do you call them? Of course, Christians, because it is Christ who is their focus and center. It is Christ who they are following. They are still a movement in some senses, the people of the way, but they are Christ's people. It is Jesus who tells us in John chapter 14, I am the way. In the passage from John 10, he says, my sheep listen to my voice, I know them, and they follow me. Followers of Jesus would know the voice of Jesus. I guess the most challenging thing is to learn to hear his voice and to follow the directions that he gives you in your personal life. It doesn't necessarily mean traveling the world on a mission, like Paul and Barnabas. It does mean following his leading in terms of the kind of person you should be and the way you see your life in general. And this Jesus, this good shepherd whose voice we hear, directs us through the Bible and the collective wisdom of others. It's often in a small group or through a still small voice prompting, a nudge or an intuitive sense of knowing what to do that we find our guidance. Following Jesus is following the Good Shepherd. And of course, Psalm 23 is a great place to remind us of the nurture that he gives us, of the rest that he provides, of the protection that he gives. John 10, after the discussion of the Good Shepherd, has this verse 28, which is quite challenging. I give them eternal life, he says, speaking of his followers, and they shall never perish. No one can snatch them out of my hand. My Father who has given them to me is greater than all, and no one can snatch them out of my Father's hand. I and the Father are one. If Jesus is one with the Father, then Christians are followers of God through Jesus Christ, who came to earth to reveal the nature and love of God to us. May we be people who truly follow, and may we learn to feed on the words that he speaks. Well, enjoy the rest of your day and this new month, and may you understand fully what it means to be a Christian in your ordinary life. God bless you, and goodbye from Browns Bay.